So you're thinking about buying a record player and getting into the world of vinyl collecting. If you've started looking, you're probably wondering what you need, what you don't need, what's a good turntable, what's a turntable to avoid. It can be a bit overwhelming. Well, in this video, I'm going to try and give you a nice basic guide on what you need to look for, what you are going to need, as well as giving you a couple of options. At the end of the video, I'm going to talk you through my personal setup and hopefully you'll be able to see it all come together. As always, if you do find this video useful, a like and subscribe would be much appreciated. But anyway, enough from me, let's get into the video. So if you've just started looking for a record player, you've probably come across what we call all-in-one or suitcase style record players. This is what they look like. I found this one here. Crosley are one of the main manufacturers of this style of player. And you will often be advised to avoid these. Now, I'm not just going to sit here and tell you, do not buy them. I'm going to give you some reasons, and I'm also going to give you some reasons why these might potentially be an option for you. But as you can see, they're usually quite cheap, around £100 here in the UK, sometimes a little bit cheaper. They come with everything that you need to start playing records. You just plug it into the mains and you can pop your record on and it will work. They have built-in speakers. As you can see, this one has little built-in speakers down the bottom here. And they are not going to sound very nice. If you get into the world of vinyl, one of the main reasons people do it is for the sound quality, and this is going to completely wipe all of that away. They're not going to sound good at all. Now, what you can do is connect these two speakers, so that's already going to improve it. And this one here in particular has Bluetooth as well, so you can also connect it to Bluetooth speakers, which is going to improve it. But the quality of these, the kind of, the build quality is not great. Now, some people will tell you that the second you put a record on these, your record is destroyed and ruined, they break records. I think that's a little bit of an exaggeration. However, I personally wouldn't put, my valuable vinyls on here. And the reason for that, they're not set up very well. It's very cheap components. Everything's kind of built into this box. It's not going to be that great of an experience. Now, I think there is a market for these. If you are maybe buying a gift, or you're younger and you're just getting into vinyl, or maybe you have one or two vinyls and you just want to tread the water before you start spending a bit more on your record player, this could potentially be an option. My opinion is, if you buy something like this and you start enjoying the experience of buying physical media, opening a record and putting it on, actually the physical process of listening to music, I think I can't argue with it. This is a fair way of doing it, and then maybe you'll upgrade later on. But as a general rule, I would avoid these and look at some of the other options that we're going to go through in just a second. So before we start looking at what you need and what you don't need, this is quite a traditional looking record player, so I just want to cover some of the basics here. What you'll have here, this bit here on a record player is called the platter, and on top of the platter you will have a slip mat, and the slip mat is to stop your record slipping. We have the tone arm. We have the tone arm release lever, so this lifts the tone arm up and lowers it onto the vinyl itself. And then we have our stylus and our cartridge. Some people refer to this as a needle. It's the little bit that goes into the groove of the records. You can see here, this one in particular has a stop button. You can also change the speed of the player here from 33 and 45. And I think it's also got a Bluetooth button. But the basics that all record players will have is a platter, slip mat, tone arm, cartridge, stylus. So when we're looking and you're starting looking at your journey, you might see some of those terms used, but now you know hopefully what they are. Now, this particular one here is what is known as an automatic record player. An automatic record player essentially means that most of the things are done for you. So when you press the start button here, the tone arm is going to move across and go on the start of the record for you. When you press the stop button, the tone arm is going to lift up and go back for you. They're easy to use, and for a beginner, an automatic record player is probably the way to go. There is also a more kind of mechanical style turntable, which you can see here, and this is very similar to the one that I actually have. Whereas you can see here, there isn't really any buttons, so it involves you sort of lifting the tone arm and placing the stylus onto the start of the record, lowering the lever. Is a lot more involved in the process of actually playing a record. Now, some people prefer that. They like the process of putting their record on and manually lifting the arm and etc, etc. Some people might just want it nice and easy. They've got the record and they just want to press a few buttons to get it started. So that is one thing that you need to consider, whether you want to go through automatic or mechanical. I would personally, as a beginner, steer towards the automatic way of using a turntable. Now, the next thing that you're going to need to consider is a phono preamp. Now, when you're looking at record players, what you may see is it will tell you that it has a built-in phono preamp. Basically, without a phono preamp, your turntable will not be able to output an audio signal strong enough for you to listen to. It is a little bit more technical but that's very much the basics. So you're going to look for a record player that has one built in. Now I'm going to talk about the options if it doesn't have one built in just a moment. But if this is your first turntable and it says it's got a phono preamp built in, what that essentially means is all you need to do is to connect the turntable to an amplifier if you've already got a hi-fi amp at home. If you've got an AV receiver at home, it will have inputs that you can connect your turntable directly to. Or if you've got powered speakers, also known as active speakers, you can often just connect your turntable directly to those speakers. Now, if your turntable does not have a phono preamp built in, you're going to need to buy one separately. Now, some of the more high-end turntables don't have them built in, and some people like to keep everything separate. So if you're going to get a separate phono preamp, this is potentially what they would look like. There's a whole rabbit hole with these. There are many different types. This was quite a cheap one from Amazon. And what you can see here, I don't know how clear it is, but you would connect your turntable to this preamp, and then there's an output that you would then go and connect to your amplifier. So this kind of acts as the middle between your turntable and then your amplifier or your AV receiver, whatever it is you're connecting to. Now often what happens, if your turntable does have a built-in phono preamp, there's often a switch that will have phono and line. Now, if you flick it to line, you would be able to use anything with a line in. So if your soundbar or your speaker system has a line in port, or your amp has a line in port, you can connect your RCA cable to your turntable and then connect it to the line in as long as it's on line in. Or if you flick it to phono, it will be using the built-in turntable phono preamp. Now I want to talk you through my setup so you can see how all of this works together. So first of all, here is my projekt turntable. And as you can see, this is a manual turntable and it does not have a built-in phono preamp. Another thing just to note on here, you'll also note this is what we call a belt drive turntable, which essentially means that there is a belt that drives the platter here in the middle. A direct drive turntable will usually have the drive actually built into the machine itself, so you can't really see it. Now this turntable does not come with a phono preamp built in. So as you can see, I have got it connected to my phono preamp, and then I've got RCA cables coming out of the phono preamp directly into my AV receiver, because that is what I use to play all my music. And this amplifier is powering my speakers. These are passive speakers, which means they need an amplifier to power them. I'm going to do another video on speakers because that's a whole other topic. But essentially, as you can see, we've got turntable, phono preamp into my amplifier. The amplifier is outputting to my speakers. As always, thanks for watching. I hope that gets you started on your vinyl journey. I am going to make a few more videos here going into depth about setup and a few other things, but for now I just wanted to keep it really, really simple and show you a couple of examples of what you need to look for. Thanks very much for watching, and I will see you soon.